We are now recording. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Reinvention Conversations from the Front Porch, episode 24. I'm your host, Hollis Thomases, and with me this evening is Ken Mueller. He is the Director of Marketing and Communications for TELUS 360. Reinvention Works is the destination to empower people and businesses to take control of their next future with tools, networking, and education. And Reinvention Conversations from the Front Porch is a series designed so that you can hear real stories about real people who have reinvented, and they're meant to inspire and motivate and give you actionable items. So now I'm going to turn the floor over to Ken. Ken, please tell us a little bit about your reinvention journey in about 5 minutes or less, and then we'll talk about what we're doing to whet our palates this evening.
Yeah. I think my life is pretty much just reinvention after reinvention. And I can do this in 5 minutes, but I'm going to take you all the way back to college. Late 1979, I went to college. I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life. For years, I had wanted to be an FBI agent, and this was like exactly what I wanted to do. And at that point, to be an FBI agent, you had to have either a degree in accounting or a degree in law. And so I took an accounting degree, went to college, and was bored silly. I was like, how can I do all this accounting over and over again? My first semester in college, I discovered the college radio station and fell in love with it. Seemed to come naturally. And my next goal was to become the great rock and roll DJs that I heard growing up in Philly. And so I got into radio, and it became a broadcasting major. Everything fit. Graduated from college, didn't become a DJ, a little bit of a DJ, but mostly fell into news and sports on the radio. And fell in love with that. And if you would ask me in college if I ever wanted to do news and sports, I would have said, no way. But I love sports, and I'm sort of a news junkie now. Did that for a few years, and then decided I'm going to go to grad school. Didn't know exactly why, but I wanted to earn a little more money and, figure something out. So went to Penn State, got a degree in mass communications, a master's degree. I taught. That's my first experience really teaching on the college level, which I fell in love with as well. Didn't know what I was going to do once I finished my degree there. Someone put a job description on my desk one day, and I said, that sounds kind of like me, so I applied for it. Forgot I applied for it. 3 months later, got a phone call from the woman who would eventually become my boss, and I spent 13 years as the radio curator at the Museum of Television and Radio in New York City. Sort of an academic position, studying the history of radio and sort of the sociology of radio. It's now called the Paley Center for Media. After that, I was in New York a little bit too long. Decided to come back to Pennsylvania in Lancaster County here, and ended up working for a small nonprofit here in Lancaster County. Took some time off from that and actually spent 7 months working as what I call a chocolate shepherd. I spent 7 months working in a chocolate factory. M&M Mars has a plant here, so I used to make Dove chocolate and Three Musketeers and Milky Ways, I think it was.
That's a rough life.
Yeah, it was rough. Hey, let me tell you something. There's nothing like a Three Musketeers bar fresh off the line before it's even been wrapped. Because the ones that you get in the store might have been in the warehouse for 4, 5, 6 months. Like right now, they're working on Valentine's Day out there. The Christmas candy's already been made, in the stores. So then I got contacted by WXPN, a public radio station out of Philadelphia. They had expanded their signal to Central PA, and they needed someone to help them with marketing out here. So I did that. After a year and a half of that, I got the phone call saying, you know what? We have two choices. Either we lay you off with a month's severance pay, or you go halftime. Because financially, they just couldn't justify it. I said, well, in this economic climate, at least I'll go halftime. I'll lose my benefits, and I'll just see what I can do and find something, at least have some regular income. So I did that. And at that time, I had someone contact me, a local business, saying, you know what, we don't know what this social media thing is, but you seem to. Can you help us? So they became my first client, and I started building my own company, Inkling Media. A year later, I got the next phone call that I was being laid off completely. So then I had the decision, okay, I was sort of forced into, do I look for another job, or do I just sort of start my own business? So I sort of kept looking for jobs, but I was pretty dedicated to starting my own business, Inkling Media, and did that for quite a few years, consulting local companies, nonprofits, small businesses, and some larger companies as well on how to do online marketing, digital marketing, social media, because it was new. No one knew what this was. And did that for a number of years. And then about a year and a half ago, one of my former continuing ed students, I also taught along the way at 2 different colleges. And one of my former students came and said, I just got hired at this place called Tellus 360. I was familiar with it. And we're looking for a marketing person. Do you know anybody who might be interested? And I was like, me? And so I applied, and they're like, you sure? I said, yeah. And, Tellus 360 here in Lancaster, it's a Irish pub / restaurant / music venue. It's probably one of the most unique businesses in the area. And so I've been there a year and a half and having a ball. It's a lot of fun. It's one of the coolest places I've ever worked.
Awesome.
So there's my reinventions.
And you did it in about 5 minutes. That's great. So just kind of to go back to these timelines, you said a year and a half ago you started with Tellus 360, and when was it that you started servicing your own social media clients because you were part-time?
Probably around 2008, 2009.
Okay.
Yeah, I started that. Really 2009, I really jumped into it. So,
okay. And when were you a chocolate shepherd?
That would have been right before that. So 2007, 2008, somewhere in that time frame. I'd have to pull my resume out to see the exact timeline on that. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a question that I've been asked before by a journalist, no less. One could say that you're reinventing, and one could say that you're just never satisfied with your job. How do you respond to that?
I think in most cases I've enjoyed the jobs I've had. I mean, any job has its good points and its bad side. I mean, the job I had in New York City for 13 years as the radio curator of the Museum of Television and Radio, one-of-a-kind job. In principle, it sounds amazing. And if I had been left to my own devices to do what I wanted, it would have been amazing. I have some, most of my great stories come from that time period, just some cool stuff that I did and learned and everything else. But it was a nonprofit that wasn't very well run. There was a very strict hierarchy, a lot of red tape, run in a very corporate sort of way. And it was extremely frustrating there. I figured when I went there, I'd stay there 5 years. I was there 13 years. I probably was there a little too long. I'm glad I left when I did, because I helped hire my replacement. Within a year, she had been let go, and my department was shut down. So if I had stayed there, I may have been forced out anyway. And they've completely changed their focus now. I still have a lot of friends who work there. But it's not necessarily not being satisfied with it. I look at a lot of people, when they talk about careers, they have this goal. You look at college students, well, this is what I want to do. In retrospect, when I look back, I'm more interested in the journey than where I end up. And I look at every one of these pieces of this puzzle as being a part along the journey that I've enjoyed. And everyone has my work in radio and my work in the museum has helped me work for this music venue that I work at now. And it was my love of music that brought me into that. So there's, I've learned something in every job that I've taken with me to the next job. I mean, even though I don't have a degree in marketing, to go into marketing with a media background was a natural thing, because there was a lot of marketing involved with what I did in media.
Right. So, some of your reinventions have seemed deliberate, and other ones have seemed sort of reacting or adaptive to circumstance. Which of your reinventions do you feel was the most deliberate that you did, and why did you do it?
Probably, oh wow. I mean, I could go both ways on just about every single one of them. I'd say when I moved from New York City back to this area to work for a nonprofit as the director of media resources, in a way it was reaction, because, cost of living in living in Connecticut, working in New York City, and commuting 3 hours every day, hour and a half each way, with little kids, having little kids can burn you out. And I enjoyed it, but it was just the nature of the business was such that, but I made a very concerted effort for that to happen.
Right.
It wasn't totally accurate. And this last one, from, sort of putting my existing business in mothballs. I mean, it still exists, Inkling Media. I still have a few clients that I help out, and I will help others out. But in general, my full-time gig is TELUS 360. This was sort of deliberate as well.
Right. Do you have a sense of your risk tolerance, and do you think that that plays into your ability to do all these reinventions?
Um, I'm not a big risk taker. Um, uh, I sometimes wish I was a bigger risk taker, and I probably would have done things differently along the way. And sometimes when I'm talking to younger people, I encourage them to take some risks, while they're young and they're single and, they have the opportunity. I never got the chance to really travel. But, I think I've been very cautious along the way. I haven't jumped, I've made very calculated moves, made sure I had the support of those around me. Not just going and saying, oh, by the way, I'm going to do this tomorrow. I'm not that type of a person. And I don't take a lot of risks. So every move I've made is, whether I've been forced into it or done it on my own, was rather calculated.
So what do you think has made you feel comfortable with what other people might seem as kind of erratic jumps and what have you?
Maybe it's just my personality. I think I'm kind of ADD. I've never been diagnosed as such, but I bet if I went to a doctor and took the tests, they'd say, oh yeah, ADHD. My attention span is like, squirrel. I jump around a lot. That's the way my mind works. My mind's moving a lot faster than my body, in a lot of ways, especially as I get older. My body slows down. But I'm just sort of ADD, and I do have a lot of interests. And one of the things I've always told my marketing clients, business-wise, is don't spend so much time talking about yourself, because it's not all about you. Nobody is one-dimensional and is on Facebook or whatever just to hear you talk about you. Everybody has multiple interests. I love music. I love sports. I love coffee. I love food. There's music. There's all sorts of things I love. And I'm always looking for ways to incorporate all of that into what I do now. Now I'm working at a place where there's great food and great music. So that keeps me happy.
Right. And so do you feel like, do you feel confident that you will, number one, reinvent again and you'll be okay doing it?
Yeah, I
probably for that.
Yeah, there's a good chance that'll happen. I mean, I have never gone into a job. Well, I shouldn't say that. With one exception, I've never gone into a job saying I'm only going to be here. The one in New York, I thought, oh, I'll only be here 5 years. But I've never gone to a job saying I'm here for a short term and then I'm going to move on. I go in for the long term. I have no idea how long I'll be here. The business is really successful. It's growing. So TELUS 360 is doing really well, and we're on an upward trajectory. I don't see us, having issues anytime soon. So I'm happy. They seem to be happy with me. But that's not to say someone's going to come along and offer me something, or whatever. I've given up predicting the future, and I think part of that's my generation. Our parents, I think, was the last generation that you graduated from college and you had one job till you retired. You didn't even move really away from home. You were still in the same city. My generation, people moved away from their hometown and took jobs and changed jobs. And our kids are even more so. You talk about reinvention. I was driving around one day and I pointed someone out. It's like, oh, that's so-and-so. Well, how do you know them? Well, they do this, and they also do this, and they also do this. I feel that the generation that comes after us, the people in their 20s and 30s, have multiple jobs. They're entrepreneurs, and they're a professional photographer, but they're also building websites, and they're also a barista, and they're also, and I feel just about everybody I'm around that's in that age group, I feel that that's what they are. And so the reinvention is happening at the same time, multiple reinventions are happening there.
Mm-hmm. So, having done it, despite some circumstances being deliberate or otherwise, what's
Mhm.
been the most rewarding part of your reinvention journey?
One, I like to learn new things. Every job I go to, I learn things that I never knew before. In working as a marketer with clients, I try to immerse myself in their world. So if I have a client that's a bakery or a client that manufactures organic, skincare products, or a client that sells fire engines or whatever, I get to learn a lot about that, which to me is fascinating. It may not be a topic that normally I would be interested in, but I know a lot about a lot of little things. And every job, even in this job, I'm not a drinker, but tonight I left work just about an hour ago to come home to do this. We had a 4-course Scotch dinner that we sold tickets to, 50 people sitting around tables, 4 courses, 4 different Scotches, and we had a woman who was an expert on Scotch come in, and she was talking about what Scotch is and what makes Scotch and stuff. And I was sitting there listening. I'm like, this is fascinating. I don't drink the stuff, but I learned something about it, and I know all about all different types of beers and whiskeys and scotches and bourbons and all kinds of stuff that maybe some would call it useless knowledge, but I'm learning something. So yeah, I think that's the rewarding thing in all of it is I get to learn a lot, meet a lot of great people.
And what about the, challenging side? What's been the toughest challenge throughout this?
Probably the financial side. I mean, I've I've never been the type of person that's driven by earning a lot of money and putting together this portfolio and everything else. Now, as I get older, that's going to come back to bite me. I may never be able to retire. I may have to be working.
It's a good thing you know how to reinvent.
Yeah, I may be doing something into my 90s. Who knows? And thankfully, I'm the type of person that picks things up pretty quickly. I mean, I got into this whole social media marketing thing in my late 40s, which, that's the demographic that's guys in their late 40s and 50s are the last people to be interested in social media. So I'm kind of an anomaly there, but I pick things up. I'm a quick learner. I'm fascinated by learning things. And it's just, money has never been the type of thing that is overly important to me. So I'm not. It's not like every job is going to be a better salary or a better package or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that's not what you're in pursuit
No,
of.
I'm not. I'm not driven by that.
So, I mean, if you want to put yourself in other people's contexts, well, we got to stop so you can explain your mug now that you've flashed the Philly butt to us.
Okay.
What do you got there?
Okay. This is. I'm drinking coffee, and this is my Philadelphia Phillies mug. I'm a diehard Phillies fan, Eagles fan, Flyers fan, and so on. Anything from Philadelphia. And when I say diehard, the emphasis is on the word die. We're not paying for. It's been a rough couple of years here. But this is my one son gave me this either for my birthday or Christmas.
And you can drink coffee this late at night and not worry about it?
This is actually my 4th cup of coffee. I had 2 this morning. I had 1 probably around 5:30 or 6, and I had this. Yeah, and there is caffeine in it. So
I think I've hit the time of life where you can't drink coffee or caffeine after a certain point of the night. So I, on the other hand, I'm drinking a lovely, luscious red wine. I'll tell the audience what it is. This is the Locations wine, and this one is from Italy. They have like a whole line of just a letter. They have F, they have CA, they have D, they have I. I is for Italy. It looks like a big fat bottle, and that's kind of because it's like more fruity Syrah-y, but it's from Italy, so it's kind of unusual. Very bold, rich, yummy, and a great price point. It's about $16, $14 to $16 retail. So I'm enjoying it. Thank you very much, and cheers to you. All right, so back to
my coffee is a lot cheaper.
Back to the how do other people do what you do if they don't have ADHD or like life circumstances? What would you advise people who the idea of reinventing might be a first for them as opposed to a seventh for you or
Well,
whatever it
yeah,
was.
yeah, I don't even know. I think the first thing is if you're going to reinvent yourself, and move in a different direction, whether it's a pivot or a whole 360 kind of thing, go with your passions, go with what you love. One of the things that I've wanted to do, I've had other jobs along the way, like summer jobs and stuff. I was an exterminator in college for 2 summers, and I never wanted to just have a career. Yeah, I'm the word job or the word work to me, and I've written blog posts on this in the past. I don't like those words because work has the connotation of something that's drudgery, and job, and I never want a job. I prefer the word vocation, and to me, it's almost like a calling or something that I want to enjoy and make it a part of my life. I want to be able to enjoy what I do. And even when I spent those 7 months working at the chocolate factory, making minimum wage, or something slightly more than minimum wage, it's one of the best experiences I had because I was forced into a situation I never would have been in before. I was working, my first night, I was working with almost everybody I worked with was Latino. And so there are all these women, Latino women around me speaking Spanish and looking at me and laughing and saying things. I'm like, I don't know anything they're saying, but they're making fun of me. And after the first night, I was in such pain. I'm like, I can never do this again. But I got to be friends with them. And I made so many friends, and I learned about their culture. And I learned a lot about their lifestyle and why they were working these horrible hours and long hours, for their families and stuff. So it was a really cool experience. But, I do something that you can call a vocation. Make sure that whatever it is you're reinventing yourself for is something that isn't just, well, I'm just going to take whatever comes along, but it's something you love to do, or at least incorporates something that you love to do. And every job that I've had along the way has been that. I love teaching, so that's why I'm an adjunct, at a college now, and I've been an adjunct at 2 different colleges over the years, and teaching marketing classes and digital marketing. That's working with certain clients is a passion for me. And again, the music, the food, just all the stuff that I like. If I can incorporate that in my job, or career, whatever you want to call it, it makes it that much more rewarding. Because I hear so many people complaining about their jobs,
What do you say to the people who say, but I'm not really sure what my passions are?
I don't know, because I guess I've always known what they are, and I always and new ones come along. When as a consultant, I loved working with nonprofits because I have a real passion for sort of helping the helpless, helping people who are in dire situations, whether it's poverty or things like that. So that was something that was always part of what I wanted to do with working with these nonprofit organizations. I guess I've never understood how you couldn't know what you're passionate. I feel like we all have things that we like and are passionate about. And for some, it might be a stretch to turn it into a job or a career. But I think there's a way to do that in most cases. What you're doing right now, no one would have said, oh, yeah, go ahead, make a career out of that. But you're passionate about it, so you want to do that. Yeah, I've always known what my passions are, and they shift a little bit here and there. But and I'd still love to write the great American novel or some great nonfiction book. And I've got ideas and passion about it. Who knows whether I'll ever get that done?
So you got a bucket list.
Well, my bucket list just changes every day. I've got a lot of things I'd love to do, but yeah.
And Ken, you've been both the entrepreneur and the employee.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a preference?
I love the idea. I love the idea of working for myself. But if you're going to work for yourself, you have to be very disciplined. You have to really know exactly where you're going and force yourself. I'm not the most disciplined person in the world. So I think I'm better as an employee in some ways. I still would love to do more, things on my own. But I like the structure. And I'm in a cool situation now because where I work, we don't open till 4 in the afternoon. So I work all day when there's no one there, and I can work from home. So there's still that little bit of a entrepreneurial aspect to it where I'm self-employed. It feels like at times.
Right, right.
So I can.
There's a new phrase called intrapreneur,
Mm,
which is the employee who is both enabled and empowered, but also acts more like an entrepreneur within their own company. Sounds
yeah,
like that's what you have.
yeah, and that is, and it was funny because when I got hired on, I was maybe there 2 weeks, and TELUS 360 has a pretty strong brand, and I had a question about something, and I went to the owner with my question, and it was a question that was in my mind important as to, in terms of our brand, and I didn't want to do something that was going to hurt the brand. I want to make sure it was part of the brand, and the owner was like, "Well, that's what we hired you for. Go ahead, whatever you feel." And I'm like, "Okay, but it's your brand, whatever you feel." And we've had these conversations, and he's very good about hiring people for what they do,
Right.
and letting them do it. Not that he's not hands on, and he is. And he's not like just completely delegating, but he trusts our judgment on a lot of different things, and that's refreshing. Because I've worked in the other situation where I didn't have a direct boss that micromanaged, but my boss's boss micromanaged. And when I was in New York City, and that was the hardest part there. I mean, where
and you put up with that for 15 years, 13 years?
13 years. And the thing is, you're hired to be an expert in something, and then someone who knows nothing about that second guesses you all the time. That was difficult.
Yeah, that's really challenging. So we are at the top of the hour, and I'm going to let the audience ask any questions. So again, everybody, if you want to type something in, find the Q&A icon and just type your question. We'll give you a couple of seconds here because some people are less fast-fingered than others. And so we'll just give them a second. If we don't have any questions, I've got a couple more for you, Ken, and
Okay.
call it a wrap. So
that's fine.
Let's just see if we've got any questions here. And in the meantime, you know what? I'm going to ask you a little quick question. Do you think that reinvention is for everybody?
I would like to say yes, but some people aren't comfortable with that. It's whatever's in your comfort zone. Some people are creatures of habit who like their structure, like their routine, and don't want something disruptive. I would say for those people that perhaps it would be good for them to maybe be forced into a reinvention at some point. But I think in this day and age, again, I think we all need to be flexible with that, because again, like I said, our generation, this next generation isn't going to have the opportunity to stay at a company for 50 some years, or 30 or 40 some years. It just doesn't happen. I mean, with layoffs and, well, we're going to transfer you to such and such an office, but I don't want to pick up my family and move. The way the corporate world is, unless you're your own boss, like, I'm going to start as a plumber and you start your own plumbing business, or you're a doctor or whatever. You're going to have to reinvent yourself at some point in time.
Right. Yep. And therein why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So we don't have any other questions. So I'm going to ask you one or two other questions. Do you have how do you know when you've, gotten to your next reinvention? Like, do you consider the evolution of going from having your own digital marketing firm, marketing services firm, to working as a marketer for somebody else a reinvention? Like, how does one know that they've actually done that step?
Yeah, I do consider that a reinvention, not as drastic as some of the other ones. But, and again, reinventions, I don't think are always like, flipping a house where it's like, boom, it's like suddenly it's this new thing. For me, it's almost always been an evolution, a slow moving process. And it's like I find myself moving in that direction. Sure, there's a leap you have to take at some point. But how do I know? I mean, sometimes I just knew. I mean, and I can't say what it was like, it's time. It's time to do this. Obviously, if you're laid off, you're sort of forced into that situation.
It's different.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's an easy answer for everybody on that. I really don't. And I certainly can't speak for other people. Some people are just content, in their jobs, and for some people it's the clock in, clock out, and at the end of the day, just go home and enjoy it. And for them, it's just a job. I just never could have done that. So, they're happy, maybe not reinventing. I like the challenge.
Right. Did you use, or can you think of any tools, resources, coaches, colleagues to help you on your reinvention journey?
No real coaches, but I always value the opinions of my friends and people who might be in that field. So when I made the move into marketing, especially to being a consultant, I did some online courses. I went through the HubSpot courses and things like that. Did the online courses in Google Analytics and a lot of that kind of stuff, just so I could learn it and be really informed. And I was always reading blogs and stuff. And I spent a lot of time in a number of blogs and getting to know people and allowing them maybe to mentor me without even knowing they were mentoring me. So I people who have been in the business longer, I could tell pretty quickly which ones were relevant to me and which ones annoyed the snot out of me. For lack of a better phrase. And I learned from a lot of those people. And, I want to be the same thing for other people. I have a lot of people. Tomorrow, I have someone who's a local business person, musician, who is going through some, it's hard to be a full-time musician, and is going through some stuff and emailed me and said, can I pick your brain a little bit about how to go about doing this? And that happens a lot. And I'm always more than willing to help other people with that, because I know I like the help that I got from other people when that was possible.
Right. It's sort of like a reinvention karma. You get reinvention karma points.
Oh, okay. Do I get to cash them in for anything?
Of course. What would you like to cash them in for?
Eagles Super Bowl, Phillies World Series. I don't know. I'm gonna have to get a lot more of those points.
You have to talk to Roger Goodell about that.
Yeah.
But work on it. I think that
okay.
You probably will continue to amass enough points. What you have to do is find other reinventors who have amassed points, and you need to collaborate.
Okay. As long as they're Eagles fans, I can't collaborate with the Patriots.
Right, you can't with Cowboys or Giants.
Oh no.
Well, I think this is a wrap, and I'm gonna bring us back over to my screen, and so we can talk about what you do, and maybe you want to tell people about something you've got going on. So everybody, Ken Mueller can be reached on Twitter at KM, well, his name, K Mueller 62. That must be the year you were born, eh?
Probably.
Or this is the business Facebook page, facebook.com/telus360. Ken, do you want to say anything that you've got going on, or you guys got going on, or somebody's in the Lancaster region?
I would just say, if you're ever in Lancaster, stop downtown Lancaster. When people come to Lancaster, their first thought is, oh, the Amish or the railroads or some of these other things we've got. That's out in the county. Come into the city. There's a lot going on in the city, and visit us at TELUS 360. Honestly, we are probably one of the most unique businesses and buildings that you'll ever see, from top to bottom. It's a huge building with a lot of space and a lot of cool stuff going, and live music 4 or 5 nights a week, and great food, and whatever it is you want to drink, we've got it. So stop on in.
Sounds like a lot of fun, and it's Lancaster, right? Lancaster. Like Balmer.
Yeah.
Well, folks, and if you want to join us for future episodes of Reinvention Works live webcasts, conversations from the front porch, just go to our webpage, reinventionworks.com/webcasts. We're always looking for sponsors for our program. So if you know somebody who's interested in reaching out to audiences in change, in career change and life change. That's for us. You can find us on Twitter at Reinvention Work. Unfortunately, there's too many characters in our brand name for Twitter. And next week, we normally have our tweet chat the last Wednesday of every month, but it is the busiest travel day of the year, and it's the day before Thanksgiving. So we are going to be thankful for your safe journeys, and I wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. So we are not having our tweet chat this month. In 2 weeks' time, we'll be back to our webcasts. And our guest in 2 weeks is Payman Neil Farouche. He is the CEO of an advertising technology company called Empowered. He was actually born in Iran under the repressive regime. So his family escaped to Canada, and he has a really fascinating story to tell. You can follow us with hashtag Reinvention Works. Our show is on Wednesday at 8:30, and please tell your friends. So I thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful evening, and we're going to call it a wrap. Thanks, Ken. Bye now.
Thanks. Take it easy.
Take care, everybody.